All right, let's do it. Welcome into this live. All right, everybody. Welcome into this live version of Scoop City. What's going on? I'm the Athletics senior NFL insider, Dianna Russini.
I'm Chase Daniel, played 14 years in the NFL.
14 years, and you made a lot of money doing it. And we're so
Yes,
happy
we
that
did.
you're here with us. And we're so pumped to have our colleague and friend, Chris Branch, joining the show. So if you're not familiar with Chris, you're familiar with his words, especially if you check out our Pulse newsletter. It's one of the best things we do here at The Athletic. And Chris has what I think is one of the best writing styles, but also just such a great view from the fan. I think that's where I've enjoyed your newsletters because you really give us that fan perspective. So I thought, why not have you join this big free agency show so I can hand the steering wheel over to you? You can drive this thing so I can tweet and call people and do all this and fill everyone in. So I'm handing the reins over to you on such a big day. So Chris, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me. I mean, I am literally a day one listener of Scoop City. You guys help me do my job every day. So I am pumped to be here.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Well, look, we've got some major news in the quarterback market. We're seeing the offensive line groups move all over the place. Kansas City finding some answers. The New England Patriots spending buku bucks to get players up there in New England. So let's just get right to it. Here's what I'm hearing around the league. Chris, why don't we start with the quarterbacks?
Let's go.
I mean, Sam Darnold has to be number one, right? Chase, can you back me up there?
Yeah, I mean the Sam Darnold thing to me, like going to the Seahawks, Clint Kubiak played in that system before. It's pretty much Kevin O'Connell's system. This guarantee of $55 million. This is a big guarantee for somebody like Sam Darnold. Look, we know he led the the Vikings last year to 14, 15 wins. It's a franchise record, and he played really, really well for most of the season, right? And I think that the last two games of the year for the one seed in the playoff game is sort of what scared Minnesota away from doing a $100 million deal that Sam Darnold got, $55 million guaranteed. I mean, this is pretty much, for all intents and purposes, it's a 2-year deal. And it's interesting because I was thinking, like, man, Mike McDonald, first of all, you trade away Geno Smith for a mid-round pick. Then you trade DK Metcalf year one. I'm like, what are you doing? And then you cut Tyler Lockett. And I'm thinking to myself, who in the world would want to go play for the Seattle Seahawks behind that line after you trail that? Now, they still have Jackson Smith and Jigba. But I go back to a late season game between the Vikings and the Seahawks, where Sam Darnold at the Seahawks was absolute nails in the element in front of Mike McDonald. And I believe that game had a lot to do with Mike McDonald sort of falling in love with Sam Darnold and then being okay with trading away Geno Smith, who, oh, by the way, was 10-7 last year. So this is easily the story of the day for me, just because it's a quarterback. But man, it's a crazy day.
Well, I think like for me, it's just like the normal fan is saying, what is the plan there? You trade away all this top line talent, and then you sign, as you say, it's a 2-year deal, high money deal. So like you're trying to win in the next 2 years, right?
I mean, I would guess so, right? Like I'm looking at the chat right now, going crazy, and it's one of those things where I just don't know if they have enough weapons, because the one thing that for me watching Sam Darnold, one thing he's not good at is evading pressure and making throws in a pressure type pocket. That's what Geno Smith was great at. So that's why I think that Geno Smith did a really good job on film, because that offensive line, they've struggled. They've had injuries. Now you get rid of their two top receivers, in my opinion. I know Jackson Smith and Jigba's a good number one now, but where is the help? They have been silent so far in free agency. So if you're saying, yeah, this is great for the money wise, and I don't know the situation, Dianna, with him and the Steelers. I know the Steelers had an offer out. If it was me and the money was close, I'm going Steelers, and it's not even close because you got a defense. You don't have to play in weather. You don't have to do all this. But I'm just glad he ended up playing pretty well there.
Yeah, and let's not put aside right now. We're about 3 hours into the tampering period here on Monday afternoon, and it's really all about the quarterbacks, just like it always is. So we now know with Sam Darnold headed to Seattle and Pittsburgh poking at that, and there were some discussions this afternoon about Sam Darnold possibly going there. And Aaron Rodgers is in touch with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm sensing momentum of that actually happening. I'm not sure if this is going to be official by the time we wrap the show up, but it looks like it's trending in that directions, which is, you paint a picture of what this offense can look like in Pittsburgh. And why don't we just start with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator, who we know backed Justin Fields so much last year. And he seemed like he really wanted to see that quarterback thrive. And now Justin Fields heads to the New York Jets, where he will be the starter there. The Jets paying him a lot of money, getting a lot more money than he would have gotten in Pittsburgh as he tested the market. So just overall, right now, we're still waiting for all the pieces to fall. We're waiting for Daniel Jones to make a decision between Indy and Minnesota. But why don't we talk a little bit about Pittsburgh? I can tell you, they've had tons of conversations with lots of different veteran quarterbacks that we're probably not even naming right now, trying to find the answer. When you look around their roster, Chase, they have almost every piece. They just need the quarterback. Yeah. Ben Roethlisberger making jokes that he's going to come back and play.
I would too if I had DK and George Pickens. And that brings me to my question, didn't trading, Dianna, for DK Metcalf sort of incentivize a quarterback in free agency to want to go to Pittsburgh? Now, I know that offensive line needs some work. They were 27th in pressure percentage last year, and that defense needs a little bit of retooling because they sort of down the stretch regressed a little bit, gave up a lot of touchdowns. But if you're Mike Tomlin and Omar, this is a complete opposite, 180. You used to only spend money on defense. Now you're spending $30 million a year, $150 million guaranteed, contract to DK Metcalf. Why aren't why didn't Justin Fields feel the need? Hey, I feel better in this system with two of my studs versus going to a system that he doesn't know. Now I know money talks, right? Yeah. But all things that's sort of crazy to me with Pittsburgh. They can't lure a good guy there. And that's sort of been the issue, in my opinion, since Mike Tomlin's got there. He hasn't replaced the quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, they certainly have had a hard time solidifying that position. And look, money talk, shout out Myles Garrett, right? You can say what it is. And I don't know this with Justin Fields, but yeah, I do wonder if he looks back at that year where he was playing well. And at times let's just give the Steelers or Mike Tomlin a little bit of defense here of he was playing fine and they obviously benched him. And I wonder if that left a bad taste in his mouth of just, you know what, maybe I don't trust this. Maybe I felt slighted there because this was someone who was trying to build his confidence after what we saw happen in Chicago. And I do think he was getting comfortable in Pittsburgh. So now we'll see what happens with him now joining the New York Jets, 2-year, $40 million with $30 million guaranteed. And we'll see.
But you just glossed over. Hold on. You just glossed over those numbers it's not an insanely crazy deal.
He made more money not playing
for Justin Fields. $30 million guaranteed for everything. This is a 2-year, $20 million that he's going to see because you're not going to pay him $30 million for 1 year. What was it about the Jets specifically that that made them want to go out and get Justin Fields for this type of money? Because in my opinion, a lot of people's opinion, it's an overpay.
It is. But first of all, we know this, and you know this better than anyone. Free agency is about overpaying, right? Everyone around the league has been talking about how this free agency class isn't that strong. The quarterback market is not robust. It's not booming. You have a lot of good guys. You don't have any superstars. And Justin Fields is still on this journey of kind of playing and getting to a point where I think people wanted him to be before the draft. And we've seen it. How many times do you and I talk about it on the show about, some of the magic he's got, if you can put him in the right offense with the right offensive coordinator. And, when you look at this Jets roster, they're pretty good. And they know that they just need a quarterback. They still need a couple more pieces, but in terms of the priority after moving on from Aaron Rodgers and trying to really redo this new chapter of the New York Jets, I mean, Justin Fields, somebody who wants to prove, it makes so much sense in the world for them. I'm just curious on what this offense will look like with him knowing what they're going to want to run there. And if that's really it's got to be in line with what they want to do if they're signing the guy. But it really, for Justin, it came down to these two teams. It was the Jets and it was the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you've got the New York Giants sitting here right across town from the Jets.
I'm so curious about the Giants, because does this mean that they're going to draft a quarterback? Like, this is what we think, right?
They're waiting. This is where the Daniel Jones.
Russell Wilson, or I
got
don't know.
Jameis Winston still out there, right? You've got Zach Wilson. Russell Wilson makes sense to me as somebody that could maybe step in. Jameis Winston, as I mentioned. I think they're in a tough spot. Like, there's no way they're not panicking a little bit. Somebody was going to be left out when the music stopped here. And that's kind of what everyone's been talking about the last few days, Chris, of just who is going to be left out. And
it feels like right now it's Russell Wilson, right? Like being left out of the whole thing, because if Russell doesn't go to New York, where does he go? Like, that's one of those things too. And Dianna, maybe you could answer this with some of your knowledge, but if I'm the Giants and I am Joe Schoen and I am Brian Daboll, I have 1 year and 1 year only to win, or everyone in that organization gets fired. And yet you don't go out there and you don't make a play for a quarterback. Because at least if you have Aaron Rodgers, you have a chance to win with Malik Neighbors, Aaron Rodgers, right? But now, we're not sure where Aaron's going. Maybe he's going to Pittsburgh. He's looking maybe like he's going to Pittsburgh. I just don't understand how you can literally have your job on the line and not overturn every single stone possible, because these quarterbacks aren't it.
They were so hard on Stafford, and we know this because we know the kind of money they were willing to pay. I don't know what you want them to do. Like, I hear you. Like, it's stressful when you think about how there's going to probably be a good chance they're not going to have the best situation there at quarterback, knowing that their seats are very, 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 very hot. But maybe this is where they can maybe hit in the draft. This is where maybe they can budge the Titans, give up a haul, and go up and get a Cam Ward. If
it's the only person that makes sense in this draft. If
they're aggressive with trying to call up already. They've had conversations with the Titans. It's just, are the Titans going to do that? Which is, this is kind of all affecting the other.
Crazy, man.
I mean, the Stafford thing was 4 days ago, and it feels like about 5 years ago.
It really does.
But they were willing to pay top money for arguably one of the top quarterbacks on the market, theoretical on the market. And like, now they're just going to draft Cam Ward and roll the dice on. I mean, I'd be interested in Chase's opinion on this. Like, do you like Cam Ward enough to take him number one?
I love Cam Ward. I really do. But I want to make sure that we understand, like, this is not only my opinion, but opinion of a lot of different executives, a lot of different teams. Cam Ward's great. He would have gone number 5 or number 6 last year in the quarterback class. That's how bad the overall quarterback class is right here. Right. Now, I love what Cam Ward brings. I love the juice. I love the energy. I love the pocket movement. I love the arm, can make every throw from every angle. But here's the thing. I know it's going to take a lot to move up from 3 all the way to 1. Now, my question is, and Dianna, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, is the owner, John Mara, are they going to allow this team and this organization of Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll to make the move and to mortgage the future of the franchise, which they might not be a part of, to go up and get a guy they're not sure of just to save their jobs? That's the situation we should be talking about.
I think they're handcuffed, Chase. Like,
exactly.
They have to. This reminds you of the Bears when we had Kevin Fishbane on, and we talked about the cycle of the different regimes being stuck with the next pick, and right.
Great, by the way.
It's the same idea in the sense of just, Mara has to look at Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll and believe that they're going to be able to make the right pick here, despite the fact that they were obviously wrong for Daniel Jones being an expensive fit as a New York Giant, right? So that didn't work. The Saquon Barkley thing didn't work. Not that we want to go there again. Which, by the way, 1 year ago is when the whole Saquon Barkley to Philadelphia went down. Just, happy anniversary to you, Philadelphia.
Hey, somebody in the chat just said Chase got his hair dyed at the same place as Dianna. And I'm like, well, Diana's a little bit more blonde, but thank you for noticing. Mojal.
That's not a diss. That's not a diss.
And that's not a diss either. I don't know if that's more to me or to you. I don't know. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Wait, she's making fun of our hair color? Or
well, no, he's making fun of my hair color, I think.
Oh, why do you dye your hair?
No. No, we just said that.
Oh, I thought you
No,
do. No judgment.
Hey, real quick, I know we got like a rundown, but I saw another question from Andrew Scheit talking about the Chicago Bears. Hey, Scoop City, love the Bears move so far. Is there any Bears related moves coming, Dianna? In particular, thinking D-line, wide receiver 3. Let me just talk about the center they signed from. I think the center, and I think he's great. I think it's a completely underrated offseason right now for the Chicago Bears, specifically talking that offensive line. Jonah Jackson, the center today, and then you go out and you trade for Joe Thuney. I think that's the big takeaway from this Bears offseason so far. What do you think, Dianna? Any moves coming for our guys?
Well, they just got somebody. They literally just signed Dalmain on the – wait, hold on. Yeah, they are going to continue. Look, here's what I've picked up quickly over the last few weeks and just having conversations around the league, that Ben Johnson, his priority, without a doubt, at the start of free agency has been beefing up the offensive line. It was, we got to get Caleb protected. It does not matter. We will spend more money if we need to. That has to be where we address it. And everyone is using the same template that we saw from the Super Bowl. It's the same idea. It's not a new philosophy, but it's obviously successful.
Oh my gosh.
You
just broke. Yeah. For you just broke. This is a huge deal. Josh Sweat and the Arizona Cardinals have agreed to a 4-year, $76.4 million for Josh Sweat.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah. So this all just happened about a second ago as you were
That's
talking about your hair.
money.
Yeah, but Josh Sweat, Philadelphia knew he was going to get this kind of money. You had a lot of teams in on Josh Sweat. Everyone was poking around on that. And obviously some teams just had a number where they were not going to go above, but they obviously, you see here, when in free agency,
huge money.
I mean, that
really shocks you that much on him.
I mean, look, Josh Sweat's great. Like, I think Josh Sweat, first of all, he was going to be the odd man out. As soon as they signed Zach Bond, as soon as they were trying to go get Myles Garrett, who we all thought was going to leave, I was not expecting, the length of this deal to look like this, because I think he's a 2-down player. I don't know if he's a 3-down player, in my opinion. He's very good at sacking the quarterback. Obviously, his playoff run really helped his free agency move, but Sweat to his old defensive coordinator, that's not shocking. What's shocking is the money value, right? Yeah. $76.4 million for me, and guaranteeing that 50 plus, that's a lot.
Yep. And that's why, that Howie wasn't going to be able to retain him. Because as we're seeing, usually by now the Eagles are making a move, and they haven't, because they're not really expected to make anything.
Well, and that's what, that's in the chat too. What about the Eagles? Because they didn't get with Sweat. We had somebody in the chat say, "Hey, Chase's reaction to everything." Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald, what's up, Aaron?
Aaron Donald, what up, baby? No, but it's someone said, are the Eagles expected to make any moves? Or are they cap strapped? They just paid a ton of their own. What are you hearing about the Eagles so far?
So the Eagles, I got my eye on this Mekhi Becton situation. I'm assuming they want to bring him back. I know there have been some good conversations. If you're looking for me to give you a big splashy name, I don't have one for you right now, because I'm not getting the sense Philadelphia is gearing up to make or to take some big swing on a free agent coming up here. In fact, I think the Eagles are a little bored right now that they're not able to jump in on all of this as they're sitting there watching it all.
Eagles fans are probably miserable, but they already re-signed Zach Bond. They re-signed Saquon Barkley. They just won a Super Bowl. Like, they're probably going to draft a defensive lineman, right? How much combined money went out the door with Milton Williams and Josh Sweat? Like, a ton of money.
Well, 26 a year, and then 45 a year, probably, right? Like, total.
I don't think they were gonna pay that, right? Like, they couldn't.
No,
even if they are.
And they were operating that way. They knew.
Yeah.
What are you hearing about Mekhi Becton? Someone put up on the screen the Mekhi Becton thing. What is it going to take for the Eagles to keep him money wise?
I don't know that exactly.
He played really well.
He did play very well, but he fits very well in that system, right? So obviously, we know Jeff Stoutland is the master coach of the offensive line group there, and Mekhi has a tremendous relationship with him. In fact, they share an agent. Mekhi's agent also represents Jeff Stoutland. So they've always had this growth. And Chase, I should ask you this, because I had some conversation with some players who were making some decisions. How much do you weigh a system and a program that works for you versus the money?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's a great question, because it depends on where I'm at in my career. Am I on my first contract and wanting to maybe extend my shelf life as a player? I think money, ultimately, everyone knows that is the end all be all. Everyone is trying to get to free agency and trying to get that big contract. But if it's close and maybe it's $1 million less on a longer term deal, but it's going to make you a better player in the long run, I say it to quarterbacks all the time, right? Like that's why I think Sam Darnold decided to go and take a lot of money from Seattle, because it's the same system as Kevin O'Connell's, right? It's not like you're having to learn a new system. So I think system plays into it. Ultimately, in my opinion, it's money. And it just depends. If you're on the later end of your career, I'm taking all the money we can get, right? Yep. Like you even look at Khalil Mack, right? He had other offers out there, but he takes $18 million from the Chargers. And it's the same system that he's played in because he can play well. Now, if you're a younger cat, like I was saying, you might think of going somewhere else because it's life-changing money for free agency.
Well, then let me ask you about Daniel Jones, right? Because we talked about this last show, and it's fitting for right now as we're waiting for his decision to be made. In the Kevin O'Connell system, where he's been with the Vikings for a year now, after they signed him they signed him during the season, after it ended in New York with the Giants, he has an opportunity to start in Minnesota if he can beat out JJ McCarthy.
See, hold on. Let's just talk about that. Because you're so into it and you're so like one track minded because you're trying to get information. For the real world, that's sort of crazy news. Like, so say that a little bit slower about Daniel Jones, but tell it again. He has a chance to start.
I think Daniel Jones has shown in Minnesota that he can compete for the starting job. There's absolute confidence coming out of Minnesota that he could do it. JJ McCarthy's coming off injury, Darnold, right? Like you have to, the facts are the facts. JJ McCarthy, first of all, last summer was having a fantastic camp. Yeah. And we assumed that he was going to wind up starting last year. Obviously, unfortunately, he gets injured. So now he's coming back. He's rehabbing. They're expecting him to be back this spring. Great. But what a great opportunity for really everyone, including those two players, for it to be a true competition. And you have to figure Kevin O'Connell is not just going to play the draft pick, the top draft pick quarterback. He's going to let the best quarterback win. Because that's the best way to run an organization. It's just going to come down to whether or not Daniel Jones believes that, right? Because you have to figure if you're him, you can go to Indy. You're going to win that.
That's what I was going to say. So he has a market then. It's not just Minnesota.
Yeah. So Indianapolis is very aggressively trying
as
to get
the
Daniel
starter,
Jones.
Or will that be a competition as well?
They will call it a competition, but it's going to be starter money. If Indianapolis,
I feel like if you don't take that opportunity, you may never get it again.
Okay, so this is what I want to. This is why I'm asking you this, because I've gone back and forth on this today when I started to hear about the scenario, and also knowing that both teams were in on him over the last few weeks, or at least the idea of them. Why don't you think he would get another opportunity? Both scenarios? I think it's a win-win. He may get more money in Indy, but don't you think he could have even more success if he has?
Here's my thing. If he plays well in Indy, well enough, they're going to sign him. It's probably a one-year deal. They would sign him again to be their starter. In my opinion, now I could be wrong, if he plays well in Minnesota this year, there's still a number one draft pick backing you up that is going to play, because that's how organizations are. So it depends on what you want to weigh on. If you have a chance to go be an Indy, now you don't have even remotely as good of a roster. The play caller's not as good. You have everything. You have, Justin Jefferson, you have Jordan Addison, you have Aaron Jones, you have TJ Hawkinson there. If he turns down starter money, he better damn be sure that he wins the job in Minnesota. But do you see what I'm saying? They still have a number one draft pick in JJ McCarthy, who is going to see the field, whether we like it or not, whether it's this year or the next year. So if Daniel Jones, he could be the next Sam Darnold, I guess. I don't know.
That's what everybody's saying in the chat. And also shout out to the chat. Keep them coming. Send the link to your friends. You're live. Get all the comments in there. I am curious, if you're a Vikings fan, are you excited about signing Daniel Jones for 1 year and $20 million and seeing that play out?
There's no way it's $20 million, right, Dianna?
I don't know. I was
not for the Vikings.
Yeah, look, it just depends. I don't think that Minnesota Vikings fans would have said that last year about Sam Darnold, and look what Sam Darnold just did: 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, right? So I think there's a lot to be said about the roster around him, and then Kevin O'Connell, coach of the year, calling the plays up, along with, the quarterback coach and the OC. And I mean, they tend to revamp. So I don't know if, if you sign them for 10 million, I think there's still going to be shock around the league, like Daniel Jones. But credit to the Vikings, like Kevin O'Connell has earned the right, because he's done it with Kirk Cousins. He's done it with Sam Darnold. He's earned the right to be like, hey, I can make Daniel Jones some money. Like, I can win with Daniel Jones. Like, there's obviously something to be said there. Plus, he's sort of a dual threat guy. So I would be really interested to see how he looks in that scheme. Oh, thanks, football guy KT. Man, what do you put in your beard? It's immaculate. Thank you. Although I will say that there's more grays in my beard now. Dianna doesn't have to really deal with the grays, but yeah. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
So I can see both sides on the whole Daniel Jones situation as we await his big decision here. You want to get into the Milton Williams situation? So Milton Williams.
What happened with that?
Okay. So everyone and their mom knew it was going to be a really expensive market for him. He was going to get paid. He was our number one free agent on the athletic free agent board. And he had the Arizona Cardinals, the New England Patriots, the Carolina Panthers, and a couple other teams that just, they were in it initially, but they all backed out in the last, I'd say, closer, probably in like that 12, 1 o'clock hour, they dropped out. And the Panthers felt pretty good that they were getting him. And it was getting really, really close. And from what I was told, the New England Patriots swooped in, and we all know swoop means more money, came in and were able to put a lot more cherries on top of that sundae and get him to leave. And from what I understand from talking to people about his market even before today, this was always going to be about a big payday for him, which everyone was aware of. So he was going for the team that was going to pay him the most. So they stayed patient. He got the money. And New England makes a gigantic splash after missing out on a lot of players today. They were in on Chris Godwin. They were in on Ronnie Stanley. Those are pretty important pieces for the New England Patriots, and they still have not filled them.
No receiver either for them.
They don't have a receiver. They don't have a left tackle still.
What was Milton Williams' offer from the Panthers? Was it not even close? And then the Patriots?
No, it wasn't that far off, but it was. New England pushed it over.
Substantial enough.
Substantial enough that you.
Because I had heard even reporting on X and just in general, like, hey, it's almost like a done deal. Usually when reporters tweet that and are like, it's
we all did. I did.
You've pretty much agreed to it, right? And so for me, it's like, was it agreed to in principle and then he backed out? Because you always have that one.
I was dealing with something with a same topic today. It happens, right? Where you agree to it and some people back out, what happens around the league when you do that?
I was going to ask you guys the same question, because I think from my perspective, like, this legal tampering is interesting where they're not signing a deal. Like, they're not signing it at all. So for a player and for insiders, like, what are the ethics of that / like, when do you skirt that? I mean, if you guys had it to where the Panthers they thought they had a deal done, right?
Yeah.
Assume that?
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine, based on it being reported out there, the team probably leaked some of that too. Like, from my perspective as a team, you're chasing the money. Like, you're chasing the money, and you can think you have something. And like for me, my agreement's my word. So if we agree in principle, that's why I asked Dianna, but it doesn't sound like they agreed in principle. It sounds like it was close. Now, a lot of times the players don't care. We're like, oh, go get your money, bro. Go get your money. Right. The people who have to deal with the blowback of that is the agents, because the agents have other players and they're negotiating with these teams consistently. So if you were to pull out of a deal that you were like, oh no, I promise he's going there, it might affect your client or your next client. Am I right on that, Dianna? Like, absolutely. It might have an impact on negotiations.
Yeah, it's obviously frowned upon, as you mentioned, but it's definitely real, because there were a couple close ones today. Milton Williams was not. I think what happens is the numbers seem fair and high enough, and then everyone thinks all parties are agreeing, and then word gets out, or maybe the New England Patriots see those tweets from us going, Panthers are closing in on a deal, and they're like, oh, no, call. Like, let's get this. We can bring this home with more money. And that's how I think that all went down.
Can I completely just ask you a question that doesn't have to do with Milton Williams? Can I ask you something? Because I've been wanting to know this since the deal got announced yesterday, and that's Josh Allen. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I know we didn't talk. I know I'm going back to the quarterbacks, guys, but I'm so interested in this deal for a couple reasons, Dianna. One, it seems to me, and you're the reporter, you can make this right or not, that they completely he ripped up his old deal. Like, to me, he had 4 years left on his deal, and they somehow get back to the table. He was making $43 million a year. Now he's making 55 APY, $55 million a year. But reading in between the tea leaves in some of these contracts, he's due $220 million in the next 4 years, which is $1 more million in Dak Prescott. So technically, through the next 4 years, he is the highest paid quarterback. One, do you think it sets a precedent around the league for like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes saying, hey, look what you did with Josh Allen. Okay, he didn't even win a Super Bowl. Bring me back to the table. Let me redo my deal.
Or what about Joe Burrow?
No.
Yes.
Right? We're waiting for this.
We
see Myles Garrett become the highest paid quarterback, highest paid in his position, makes this blockbuster deal with the Cleveland Browns. And we know for a fact that Duke Tobin, the general manager of the Cincinnati Bengals, said to everybody at the combine that they want to make Ja'Marr Chase the highest paid non-quarterback. Well, guess what? Price just went up, buddy. And
way more. Intentions
were good, but that's why sometimes it's hard to say that before a deal is done, because you lose leverage. Granted, it was going to happen anyway. Ja'Marr Chase is going to get paid buckets. But look at how the Bengals are trying to operate at this point, right? They're going to wind up paying, if they're able to get the T. Higgins deal done here, and Ja'Marr Chase $70 million to their receivers, and allow Trey Hendrickson to go look for a trade right now, which you've got teams like the Commanders trying to bring him in. And I was told there are a lot of teams willing to pay the money. Like, the salary's fine. No team's having issues giving him the kind of money he wants. It's about the compensation in return, the trade comp. Bengals are asking for a high price, and they're going to continue to probably do that, and maybe hope that they can figure something out with him. But the sense I'm getting is Trey was always going to be the third man out in all of this, when we know that they've been trying to work out a deal between Ja'Marr and T. Higgins. But back to your original question about Josh Allen, obviously taking less, and really, would you call it a hometown discount? Does that fall under it?
I mean, I don't know how.
I don't know if it's like, I don't think he saved the Bills.
Yeah.
Life-changing money, but he certainly could have received more. I think.
Yeah.
We all 100%. Know that. I mean, at one point, Kirk Cousins was making more money than him, like a week ago.
That's crazy, actually.
But look, I think you're right. I think the formula to win people are going to point to that. But geez, you're the best person to answer this. You played with Drew Brees. Was he like that? Not really, right?
No, he wasn't like that.
Right?
Like, he wanted his money, yeah.
I think it just depends on who your Q is, and
but you got to imagine that the fact that the Bills showed, and the other owners cannot be happy about this, that the Bills showed that they are willing to come back to the table and market correct the quarterback situation. So in my opinion, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, even Joe Burrow, maybe you're next. So a couple big moves that we're seeing, and I know we talked Bears. This is when the Falcons release Grady Jarrett. Okay, I thought that was a little bit of a surprise. He now lands with the Bears on a 3-year, $43.5 million deal. Someone in the chat said, are we getting a DT? There's your splash signing at defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Tom Pelissero is reporting it. That's crazy money for an 11-year veteran. Holy smokes, the Bears want to finally win games. I mean, they're having one of the best free agencies I've seen right now. Because we were talking about that defensive line, right? Like, the offensive line is there. What else do you need?
We talked about the building and how they want. I just love the fact that they have a philosophy.
Spending money.
Yeah, but they have a philosophy, and they know what they want to be. And we talk about this on the show all the time. Think about how many teams we used to question, what are you? Remember the Titans all last year? What are you? What are you doing I hated what the Titans did last year in free agency. At the time, I thought it was a good idea because I like to spend the money and like go get those players. But it didn't make sense for the future. And now they're trying to, I think, re-navigate that ship in Nashville. You know, a team that was, you know, in on Justin Fields, a team that is in on Russell Wilson, to perhaps bring him to Nashville, Chase. So that could be a Russell Wilson landing spot. When this whole thing shakes out. So,
I mean, 5 really good signings for the Chicago Bears, in my opinion, right? You got Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, Dio Oben. I don't know how to say his name. I feel bad about that. But a very good player. And then Grady Jarrett. To me, this is just, Dianna, before we move on to the next topic, this is just me realizing what wins Super Bowls in today's day and age, and it's the trenches. Offensive line, defensive line. You saw it with the Philadelphia Eagles. Best offensive line in football, one of the best defensive lines in football with Jalen Carter rolling like that. So good for Bears fans. But I know they sort of feel this way every offseason because we always say they always win the offseason.
I was going to say, is this hope dangerous for Bears fans? This is every year, right?
I mean, it's a new thing. So someone just told me how to say his name, Dio Odebango. I wanted to get that right.
It's pretty good.
I do like that Brad Chambers also said, did the McCaskies sell by doing all this?
I mean, no, seriously, it's crazy how it can change like the organization's philosophy. Like you have to give a little bit of credit to the Bears, in my opinion. Like they are changing the way they operate because of how the head coach, they went out, they spent, what was it, $13 to $15 million a year on their head coach. And now they are just spending buku's amount of money, according to Dianna. And so just a huge win. What else you got for us cooking up over there, Dianna? You're locked in. Are we hearing like an Aaron Rodgers thing? Are we hearing like a Russell Wilson?
I'm working on quarterback still. I'm told that there's going to be some decisions here. So I'm stuck in this little bit.
I just said somebody, Dianna, keep typing. I didn't realize that Sam Darnold was at Josh Allen's bachelor party. Did you see this?
No.
So
when was it?
They went last week. They went to the TGL golf thing. I don't know if you've seen anything about that.
I have. I like the TGL. I like watching it.
It's cool, but I just think it's funny that like $430 million came out of that bachelor party like the last 2 days.
Why, yours wasn't like that?
No, it wasn't.
That's hilarious. Who do you think's paying next time? Who's paying for the private jet?
It's a good life, guys. It is a good life. Jimmy Garoppolo stayed with the Rams. We knew that was going to happen. That wasn't shocking. I know when you saw that earlier today because we knew how much Sean McVay has. I mean, they were ready to roll with Jimmy G if Stafford were to move on. So we knew that there was some confidence there.
A sneaky signing that sort of went, well, we haven't talked about. We talked a little bit about receivers. You mentioned it, but Chris Godwin, 3 years, $66 million, $44 million guaranteed. I had seen reports that he left some money on the table. Why is he going back to Tampa?
I feel like I've had this conversation with a lot of people this week about sometimes I think we assume that every player is fine with just taking the money and uprooting their family and moving. But when you look at the no tax situation in Florida, he's been playing there for a long time. He's comfortable. He's got a house. He's really close with Mike Evans. He's got Baker Mayfield, and it's Florida, and it's warm. Like it sounds funny when I describe it because you think, oh no, a player's not going to think about all that or care. Yeah, like these are the factors in it. And I think deep down, I always felt that this was going to be a Mike Evans part 2. Because remember Mike Evans last year? I'm going to go test it. I'm going to go test it. I remember the night before free agency, I was like, all right, here we go. Mike Evans is going to hit the market. And then boom, text, staying in Tampa. Like, that's crazy. So I think Godwin was the same. I do think he liked to test it a little bit to see what was out there. The New England Patriots were in on him hard. But I think for him, I don't think this was about money at the end of the day because they were offering significantly more money than what he wound up getting in Tampa Bay, which is less than what Mike Evans is making.
That's crazy.
So I mean,
The chat is popping off right now, by the way, Diana.
shout out
I
to
know
y'all.
you're breaking news,
yeah,
but
I would
like
love
the
to see
live channel, the chat. I mean, it's we got a good little following. We just hit 10,000 subscribers. Appreciate you guys watching and listening. Our twice a week show. I know you mainly listen for Diana. Diana's busy trying to get some information on this, but I'm glad to be part of the show. You guys are awesome.
And how far are we down when people were asking about buzz on Carson Wentz? Not to be mean to Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I had heard. So here you go. This might bring it up to you if you have a second, Diana. Just if not, I'll keep talking about it. But the Cleveland Browns heard that for sure they were going to draft a quarterback. Deshaun Watson, one of the worst contracts in NFL history. We can all agree on that. Didn't work out. Probably going to be out this year. Re-injured Achilles. What are they thinking at quarterback? Because I had heard for the longest time they are for sure taking quarterback. They're for sure taking quarterback. But if Cam Ward's not there, are they taking a quarterback? And if not, who the hell starts for the Cleveland Browns?
Look, I think the Browns are definitely going to try to get a quarterback in the draft. This has been known for weeks. We've talked about it on Scoop City almost every time we discuss it.
Yeah.
Look, I think they're also another team right now that is in the veteran quarterback market trying to make a move.
Who?
I don't know yet. I don't know. You want every answer. I don't know what you think I am, but last time
you're
I checked,
a superstar.
I don't look like Andrew Berry.
Well, is there any chance that Jameis Winston ends up back?
No, I don't. I have a very hard time believing that Joe
Gotcha.
Flacco or Jameis Winston return to Cleveland.
So then you have Carson Wentz. You have
Carson Wentz in Kansas City makes a lot of sense, right? He's been there.
I know they like him there a lot.
They do like him there. Well, so we'll see if that makes any sense. I love that you love the backup quarterback market right now. You're very interested in all.
Come on.
No, I get it. I get it.
Like objectively,
I know I keep bringing up Zach Wilson, but I want to see where he goes. He's my Sam Darnold for next year. I want to see if he can go somewhere.
Saying he's your Sam Darnold for next year. So you're saying he's going to get a $10 million deal, or is he going to get a chance to compete somewhere?
I don't think.
And if so, where would he go?
I know that the Denver Broncos are trying to keep him because, as you know, they love that quarterback room together. Jarrett Stidham stayed there.
He got money, by the way, $6 million a year.
Yeah,
that's huge money for backup money.
He's valuable and he's a good insurance.
Sean never paid me that much money. I always wanted to pay.
And I'm expecting the Broncos to make some moves here too. They've been busy on the phone talking to a couple agents about different players.
Yeah. What about Kirk Cousins? Where's Cousins land? Anywhere?
So, I'm glad you asked about that because I was just checking in on that earlier today. So here's how it was explained to me. Kirk Cousins is not going to be getting cut. The Falcons are not moving on that. They are keeping him. They are open to moving him. So if a team wants to call and trade for him, they will do that. I think that from Kirk's side of this, and this is not shocking breaking news, he doesn't want to be there anymore. He recently met with ownership and they just had a good, from what I was told, healthy conversation about how can we make this work at some point here. So let's see what happens as we get closer to the draft. As we know, we talk about that all the time. Like that's when stuff can start changing and moving. But I do think there are teams that are interested in Kirk. They want to see what the Falcons are going to do, which is why we'll probably see another wave of quarterbacks go if they do decide to move him or they're able to strike a trade for him.
Wow. This is crazy. And we're just like
here.
Day one.
No, I'm just checking. I thought that was the quarterback text, but it wasn't.
Oh my gosh. What quarterback?
You get like a lot of very close and you can't go.
Okay, so let's wrap up the quarterback talk unless you have it breaking, but like the quarterbacks left over. Okay, you have Russell Wilson, you have Daniel Jones, and you have Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
And where do you think they end up? If you were
I think Daniel Jones goes to Indy. If I had to guess, I think that Aaron Rodgers winds up in Pittsburgh. And
then who ends up in Minnesota if Daniel Jones goes to the Colts?
Right.
Because they're going to need a veteran, right?
You would think. I mean,
I
Joe
don't want to put
Flacco's
you in
out
too
there.
much of a thing.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just spitballing.
No, I know. There's
still a lot to...
You sound like the coaches and GMs that I'm talking to about what they're supposed to be doing in all these situations. Nobody has any answers yet, which is why this has been a really, as you know, Sunday night was wild. This whole time period has been about extensions. players that
Yeah.
are staying with their teams more than this has really been about free agency. Like this has been fun and busy today, and we've seen some changes, but there has not been anything significant that I can think of outside of these quarterbacks right now, and maybe wide receiver, offensive
Well,
lineman.
one thing that was significant today is that X, Twitter, went down. How did that affect your reporting? How did that affect other teams figuring out what was going on?
How did the people in the chats, and let me know here, how did you guys keep up with the news? Because I was losing my mind. So the way it worked was I was on a Google Meet with our friend and colleague Mike Silver, who lives in California, and Twitter wasn't down for him. So he was taking my reporting and tweeting it.
I
for
did
me
see that.
because I didn't have Twitter. And then I just went on Blue Sky and Threads and Instagram. And then the part of my take guys were taking all of my Instagram stories and making them into videos to get my reporting out. Like, I cannot believe how dependent we've become on Twitter.
Well,
I know.
well, and then to talk about like so obviously for you, like it is your job. You own Twitter, but you'd be surprised, people out there that are listening, how much NFL GMs and NFL teams rely on y'all's reporting to see what's going on out there. So how in the world do you think they reacted to that? Because they didn't know what was going on.
I
Were you
didn't know
getting a lot
what
of
was going.
texts?
I didn't know what other people had either. So that was another thing. Like I was like, "Is this out yet?" Or so I just you know, and I respect the heck out of our friends at other networks and places, right?
Yeah.
So especially like someone like Adam Schefter who helped me in my career so much. So I love to give him love when he breaks. And I was like, I don't know if Adam has this. I'm just going. So it became it was kind of wild.
I thought
Last
you did a
question
great
for me.
job on Blue Sky, Diana.
You were crushing it on Blue Sky, by the way. You gained like 15,000 followers. Last question for me about the receiver. The number one receiver left, in my opinion, is a guy by the name of Cooper Kupp. Where in the world and what are you hearing on him? Because that to me is an interesting situation.
It is an interesting. He was in one of the trade packages with the teams that were in on Stafford. So I thought Cooper was going to be going somewhere with Stafford. Obviously, that fell through. Tom Brady has always loved Cooper Kupp. He talks about him in a way that, you know, when guys just show them, they just show the type of players that they relate to, the tough type of receiver. I wouldn't be surprised if Vegas tapped into that a little bit to see what's going on. The problem is his market just hasn't been awesome. It just it hasn't. Getting older, and you've talked about it on the show of like
age, injuries,
and we talked about it before the trade deadline when they were trying to move him. Remember? And it was like you kind of understood it. It was big because it's Cooper Kupp, and he was such a significant part of their success. But we'll see what happens when this thing shakes out. But there's definitely interest. I just don't know if teams are willing to do a lot in terms of compensation. So I'm just hoping that Twitter remains. We've been doing this now for almost an hour. I think we still have a big another second wave. I think most of the big guys outside the quarterbacks, everything is getting settled. All the big names. We kind of
waiting. Is Rodgers the last one we're really waiting on for the rest of the quarterback dominoes, or do I have that wrong?
No, you're good. Daniel Jones and Aaron Rodgers are the last two.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, any of the other big names. I mean, we're going to see some more here. But it's not as crazy as years past. I have to admit that.
Well, because everyone else is signing back with their own teams.
It all happened yesterday.
Can you give an insight on a little bit of that? Because I wanted to know what you're hearing from GMs. Are GMs just saying, hey, there's not a good free agency class? Or are they realizing, hey, we love our own, let's just re-sign our own?
Yes, that is very true. We're going to just sign our own. The word on this whole free agent class has been, it's just okay. It has not been. And even teams that can spend, you have the Commanders who are been in on a lot of these guys. You have the Patriots, right? Like they're spending to get these guys in the building. I don't necessarily think that they're spending this kind of money if these guys were on their team to retain them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just look at the corner market. I found it so interesting.
JC Horn.
I know, but when you look at there is a difference in the corner market with a team doing an extension on a player compared to the corner market when they hit free agency.
Yeah.
So
like DJ Reed to the Lions.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're getting more money if you're staying with your team.
Carlton Davis. Yeah.
So
I get
now
that.
you're Carlton Davis, right? And you go to your agent, you're like, I want top of the market money. And it's like, yeah, well, you need to have top of the market money of the free agents, not the guys that got
not on
extension.
your team. Yeah, like JC. Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's a difference there, and just keeping that in mind.
Awesome.
So yeah.
I am curious. The Carlton Davis thing reminded me, like, we talked about the Patriots missing on guys, but I still think they had a really good day, right? Like, are we?
Look, I think the Patriots are in a space right now where they have to figure out a way to tell the league, this is who we're going to be. This is not Gerard Mayo. This is not Bill Belichick. This is Mike Vrabel and company, and this is what we're going to be. I just think free agents are hesitant to going there right now because they're not sure what it is. And I think after, we'll call it a full season of this group putting their fingerprints all over it and building it the way they want to, I think we're talking about a different situation in the future for them. Chase and I've talked about this so much, Chris, where I say, like, I don't have a lot of expectations for the Patriots this year. I think next year is when I think, okay, now they can contend. I just think they still have so much work to do, but they got the quarterback. So they got the hardest piece.
All right, before we get out of here, last one. Just give us, including me and Scoopers, what to look forward to today or tomorrow, quarterback market. Like, what are we going to keep our eye on before we get out of here?
Yeah, it's good. It's got to be where Daniel Jones winds up and where Aaron Rodgers winds up and where the Tennessee Titans go for a veteran quarterback. I don't think they're going to have any blockbuster signings in Tennessee, but you never know. I just think this carousel of quarterbacks just needs to get settled because it's also affecting how teams are going to be spending in other areas as well, as you know, with free agency, which is, you heard Myles Garrett obviously got paid $1 gazillion, but that was part of the reason why he wanted to talk to Cleveland before all this, so everyone can get their books in order of, all right, here's how we're doing this. So we still have lots and lots to get to. So hopefully you guys continue to follow me on Twitter when it's running, and on Blue Sky and over at The Athletic. Our blog is awesome. Yeah. Like, I know a lot of people get the ESPN alerts and the Bleacher Report alerts. Those are great too. But The Athletic has our reporters weighing in immediately. Stuff goes down after we break it.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Send us out here, Dianna. What do you got for us? That's it? We're out.
You guys good?
Live shows. I like live shows. More energy.
Oh, you're all about the live show. I know. Because you hate anything taped. You hate anything that, not that we ever, I guess we do technically tape, but it feels live when we do it. So that'll do it here on Scoop City. We will see you guys again on Friday. Can you, I don't even know what's going to happen between then and now. So hopefully it'll be just as exciting as it was today. And we just appreciate you guys hanging out with us here and participating and commenting. Make sure you continue to subscribe and watch us as we're trying to build this thing. But we appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys. Tag me next time.
Bye.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.